Hey dog lovers, Mo the dog trainer here. Thank you for tuning in. Today I want to talk a little bit about excessive barking in dogs. I have had many talks with people, with dog owners about their dogs barking a lot. And it seems pretty obvious that dogs bark, but some of them bark excessively. Some of this behavior could be because it's trained to do so in an unwanted way. Maybe rewarding the dog without you knowing that you're rewarding the barking. For instance, one of the cases that could possibly happen when a dog starts barking is when you try to put him in the crate. Most people, when they get a puppy, they do have a crate for their dogs, and what they do is they put the dog in the crate, lock him in the crate, and then leave. And then when the dog starts barking, they reward him by taking him out when he's barking. And one of my suggestions would be, if you're having that type of problem, what I would recommend is never take the dog out of the crate when he's barking. Always reward when he's calm. That's one of the techniques that you can stop the barking from a crate. Reward only when he's quiet. So how can we teach our dogs to bark or be quiet on cue? It's very simple. You want to reward the behavior that you want. Dogs always repeat behaviors that they're rewarded for. So if you have an excessive barker, the first thing that you want to do is teach to be quiet. So if the dog's barking and he keeps barking and barking and barking, then you wait for that moment to mark the behavior when he's quiet. I normally like using a clicker or the verbal word yes to mark the behavior, and that bridges the communication between the sound of what you said and what you want them to do. So for instance, this is the way that I would teach a dog to stop barking. If the dog is barking, instead of me getting all upset and yelling at the dog to stop barking or try to punish him for barking, which that's a normal thing that dogs do, they bark just like we talk. Dogs bark, that's how they communicate, that's how they vocalize. I'll wait for a moment of silence. That moment of silence could be 1 second or 2 seconds or 3 seconds, maybe longer. You want to reward that moment instantly. So if you got the dog that's barking out of control, roof, 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 remember dogs can't bark forever. So you want to wait for that moment of barking to stop. Once that moment of barking stops, you mark yes, or with the clicker, and I can show you what that is. And then you want to reward him either with a food treat or with praise. You want to let him know that what he did was right. You want to keep repeating this training when he stops barking. So you want to wait for the dog to stop barking. You want to mark the behavior and then reward. Basically, marking the behavior is the bridge of what you're trying to teach him to do. So when I do clicker training, I basically tell people to charge the clicker, and what that means is you click and you treat, you click and you treat, you click and you treat, and eventually that becomes a bridge, and the dog learns that every time he hears that click, he's gonna get a reward. So the way dogs learn is you basically wait for the behavior to happen, then you click, and then they get rewarded, and they learn that whatever they just did that made that click go off rewarded them for doing that behavior. So that's how you can slow down excessive barking in dogs, by rewarding them when they're quiet. Now, after you teach them to be quiet with the word or the verbal that you want to use, which is quiet or shush or whatever you want to use, you also want to train them to speak, because speaking is a natural way for them to communicate. So after you teach them the word quiet and they shush because they want to reward, you also want to teach them to talk. So like that, they will only bark when you tell them to on most occasions. So you sit there and they're quiet because they want to get rewarded. So you make some type of noise or put a treat in your hand and wait till they bark. And once they bark, you mark it, yes, and then you reward. Now you're saying, why would you teach your dog how to bark when I'm trying to teach him not to bark? And the reason is because you want to teach the dog that he can only bark Well, not that he can only bark, but you will only reward his barking when you tell him to. So most likely the dog is not going to bark because he's not going to get reinforced by you unless you tell him to bark. So first, you wait till the dog barks and you mark that behavior within a second or two so he can associate the barking with the word yes or the clicker, and then you reward. You repeat this behavior many times until the dog gets the word, gets the cue. And then you want to generalize this behavior. If you started in your kitchen, then you want to move it to your living room. And you want to teach them that behavior there. And this goes with any behavior. If you want to teach your dog to sit, you first have to teach him to sit in one place and then generalize the behavior in other places, because dogs don't generalize well. What that means is that if you teach your dog to sit in the kitchen, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to sit in the living room, and then you're going to get all upset and say, well, my dog is being stubborn. He's not being stubborn. It's just that the dog don't generalize well, and you have to teach generalization in different areas. This goes with every training, whether it's sit, whether it's down, whether it's heel, whether it's come. All these behaviors, you have to generalize them until the dog gets it and say, oh, I have to do this behavior everywhere. And that's how you teach the dog to generalize every behavior. And that's how you would teach the dog to stop barking, to bark, to sit, and all these types of behaviors that you want to teach your dog to know. Now, if you have a dog that doesn't bark and he hardly barks, he barks once in a while, well, that's a good thing, because you don't have a dog that's talkative. So you do want to teach him something else, like sit or down or come or find it. And there are many ways and many tricks and many cues that you can train your dog, especially now while you're home with your dog. Always practice behaviors 5 to 10 minutes, whatever you're doing. Never go overboard, because dogs have small, basically attention spans, and they lose focus quick. They're like children. You can only teach them for 5 to 10 minutes here and there, 5 to 10 repetitions at a time, and they will learn much faster than you sitting there and teaching him for a whole hour one cue, especially like sit or down. These cues they already know. You're not really teaching them to sit down. You're basically putting the behavior on cue, on command. I hope this video helps you. If you have any questions, please comment on the bottom. And if you're doing these tricks already and these behaviors and these trainings, I would love to see the videos that you're doing. If you can please post them here, or you can contact me and I will give you email so I can see those videos. Please thank you for watching this video. Okay, so now that I explained all that, hopefully you got it. So now I want to teach you how to do this. So what I want you to do right now is grab your dog's leash. If you have a clicker, grab the clicker. If you don't have a clicker, don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. Normally, when I train dogs, if I don't bring this with me, I'll just use a word, yes. Words you always have with you. You just want to be consistent with that same word. So grab your leash, grab your clicker, or your word that you're going to use, like yes. Grab some yummy treats, clip the leash on your dog, and just hold them. Don't pull them. Basically what the leash does is connects you to the dog, so he can't wander off to the living room, because right now you're in training. So you clip the leash to the dog. The dog is probably just gonna look at you, and then when he does look at you, you say good boy and you reward because he gave you attention. Now you want to see if he barks, and then if he does bark, you want to wait until he's quiet. You want to wait till he's quiet, and then once he's quiet, yes, and you give him a treat. If he barks, you wait till he's quiet. Wait 1 second, 2 seconds, yes. Barks, quiet 1 second, yes. Just remember that you want to say the word yes and then wait a second and reward. You want to make those two things separate things, separate actions, separate you want to make the word one thing And then the treat, another thing. You don't want to say yes and give him the treat. I know it looks like this on the video, but I don't actually have a dog here. So what I would do is I would wait for the behavior, click, and then treat. There's two different things going on between. So you want to wait for the dog to bark. Once he stops, yes, and then give him a treat. Wait till he barks, yes, and then give him a treat. So now, if you have a talkative dog, a barker, he's gonna bark. You want to add the cue quiet before he stops barking. So he's gonna bark, 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 and as he's barking, you're gonna say quiet, and then he's probably gonna keep barking, and then you wait. Once he stops barking, yes, reward. Then he's gonna probably bark again. If he doesn't bark again, you just wait till he barks. And then quiet, yes, reward. So that's how you're gonna teach your dog to stop barking on cue. And then you can do the opposite. You can, if you wanna teach your dog to bark, you wanna wait for your dog to bark, and then you wanna yes and reward, yes and reward. And then before he barks, when you anticipate that he's gonna bark, you're gonna say bark or talk, and then he's gonna do it, and you're gonna yes and reward. Now you're probably saying, I'm gonna be teaching my dog to bark, then he's gonna be barking all the time. Not necessarily, because now you're not gonna reward when you don't want him to bark. You're only gonna reward when you tell him to bark. So eventually he's gonna quiet down, he's gonna bark less, and you two are gonna be in happy families. So I hope you enjoy this video. Thank you for watching. Until my next video.